What's going on, everyone? Welcome in. As you can see, I will be going live by myself as Ryan is off doing some work shenanigans. I'm not entirely sure where he is, but it is an undisclosed location. So we're going to have some fun tonight and get after it with you guys' questions. And, one of the things that I really want to start today off is looking at the wide receiver market. I think that is something we can see kind of blowing up. And with the TV money coming in and all that other fun stuff, we're going to have a lot of wide receiver to talk about. But as you guys know, this is RGR Football. My name is Daniel Harms, senior film analyst here, as well as live extraordinaire. We go live here. We do lives during the season every single Friday and Sunday night. So I'm excited to get back to doing those when training camp is done and the NFL season's in full swing. But I appreciate all you joining me tonight. And if you guys can see right here, I do have a little bit of new ink I got over the weekend. I got my X-Wing fighter put up on my arm. Great detail. So, and it's also really shiny because of the Sanoderm. So you probably won't be able to see it as much. So when we get this stuff off, we'll show it off to everybody. And that's absolutely right. We got some of our regulars in here tonight. Steve, how's it going? Hi, everybody. Love seeing some regulars in here all the time. You guys are doing a fantastic job of supporting us. So like I said, that's why we love doing the Q&As, to be able to give you people and all of you the best, the best information we possibly can. What's going on? Oh, nice to see you in, Taylor. If you guys don't know, this is right here is one of the hosts of the Always Sunny in Chiefs Kingdom podcast. Go over there and give them a follow on Twitter, as well as everywhere you get your podcasts. It's a fantastic show. And they also have great guests like me every now and then. Nice to see you, Taylor. Thank you for that. And yeah, I appreciate the comments on the ink. It's one of my favorite pieces so far. Obviously, I've only got two, but it's the detail on it is fantastic. So I'm looking forward to getting more of it in the future. Well, like I said, we're going to start off a little bit with the wide receiver market talk before we get into everyone's questions. So go ahead and load them up there. If you have questions, you want to get them answered. Obviously, we can do that with the question marks in the front. But also, if you guys really need to have one, super chats always open, always available. So Justin Jefferson today. What are you doing? What are you doing? Get out of here. My dog found something in my office. Looks like I got to clean up in here. Get that figured out. Justin Jefferson today set a record for non-quarterback players in terms of contract guarantees. $110 million guaranteed in his 4-year contract. We look at the wide receiver landscape in the NFL, and one of the big things that I think we can really take away is as the cap goes up, players get better, and the wide receiver pool really got injected with talent. Those players are now going to get paid. The Chiefs did try to pay Tyreek Hill. He wanted what he ended up getting with the Miami Dolphins. They traded him away, and now look at this offseason. There's still players need to be made that have yet to be paid. Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, all these guys are going to get paid eventually. So that talks directly to the Kansas City Chiefs, who in the past 2 years have won 2 Super Bowls without a wide receiver making over $11 million. MVS was the contract they were making per year. We all know that at some point they will end up paying somebody, but the Chiefs have invested in wide receiver in each of the last 3 drafts on days 1 and 2. Xavier Worthy being the first wide receiver that was drafted in the first round in Brett Veach's tenure as the GM. So that is one of the areas that the Chiefs have been trying to kind of improve upon since the trade of Tyreek Hill, and really before then. So all of this is just to say that the Chiefs are in the window of possibly three-peating without a top market value wide receiver, not even a second tier market wide receiver, man. That is an insane thing to think about, but it also does. There was a lot of talk about how Patrick Mahomes does not elevate the wide receivers around him, specifically this past season when their offense didn't look like themselves. And that's obviously not true, as we've seen that come to fruition with Rashee Rice getting much better throughout the season. And then when players finally caught the football, Patrick was putting on the money. So just goes to show you that panicking about the wide receivers is all well and good, which, again, you should have. We all did. MVS, Justin Watson, having them be your 1 and 2 isn't always the best form of a wide receiver room. But now things have changed. You got Rashee Rice coming back whenever he does from his assumed suspension. Marquise Hollywood Brown has been brought over for that 1-year deal. And then we get to see Xavier Worthy, first round draft pick. He's going to get involved early on with Justin Watson. They're still going to move Sky Moore in and Kadarius Toney around. And they're feeling pretty good about Nico Remigio. So there's a lot of talent there. We're just going to see if it comes to fruition this year. So before we get to your guys' questions, again, I appreciate y'all being here with me. We here at RGR need to shout out one of our newest sponsors. And you guys know that I love to golf, so the fact that we get to partner with PXG is fantastic. And this is my very first read for you guys. So here we go. I'm loving this, man. This is going to be a lot of fun. As a golfer for years, I've been hearing PGA pros and PXG say nobody makes golf clubs the way they do, period. And you know what? They're right. I went in for a fitting at PXG Kansas City and saw for myself from the PXG Black Ops driver, which is a total game changer where you no longer have to sacrifice distance for forgiveness down to a putter. It was a fantastic experience. Every single club we went through was adjusted perfectly to how comfortable I was and how good I was striking it, from grips to length and club stiffness level. The experience was far more than I could have ever anticipated. PXG made a believer out of me. They'll do the same for every golfer in Kansas City. Visit pxg.com/RGR to schedule your fitting at PXG Kansas City at 7517 West 119th Street in Overland Park. Get fitted for any club and you'll get a free dozen golf balls. That's right. Free dozen golf balls. I got mine. You can get yours too. That's pxg.com/RGR to schedule your fitting. pxg.com/RGR. Limit 1 dozen golf balls per person. Promotion ends June 30th. Other terms and conditions may apply. See store for details. Man, I tell you what, guys, honestly, that's a true story too. I went down and I got my entire bag fitted. And then I ended up buying the irons that we fitted for myself. It was fantastic. It was a lot of fun, and you do get free 12 free golf balls, which is always nice because if you're like me, you lose them a lot, so you need as many golf balls as possible. So it definitely, make sure you guys go do that. The fittings really are worth the time and so much fun. So we appreciate PXG for partnering with us. And like I said, that deal does end June 30th. So get in there and get your guys' fitting. So this, again, appreciate you guys being here. Anthony, how you doing? Nice to see you as well. And hello to the RGR Kingdom, as we like to call it, Rogue Nation here on RGR. So let's go ahead and jump into your guys' questions, because we do have some lined up here for you. And we're going to get started. Lots of good questions. We are in that dead period. So there's still a lot of things we got to figure out about this team before we can really start firing away with some takes. So Steve, one of our members, you guys make sure to join those memberships down there. We're going to get some more member videos for you. Definitely going to have some. I got to make good on the promise to get you guys a video about being mad about whoever the teams in the AFC West picked. So we'll get on that very, very soon. And again, Steve, thank you for your question. What is the measurable difference between offensive tackle Godric from Suamataia and Morris? So I think that the biggest difference is that he's raw. Godric was a very, very raw player coming in, didn't have a lot of playing experience from my interpretation. Now, I don't know a ton about Godric, but I'm going to look him up really quick because I think there's something that I'm missing. I think he was one of the international players. Yes. Okay. So international pathway players. One, they don't grow up playing the game, and they don't know the techniques. They don't know how a lot of even college football players can play. So when you have these players that are brought up in, different countries that are learning the football game, that don't play it all the way through, Pee-wee into middle school, into high school, it's hard to see what they're going to be. But that's why they developed this international pathway program. And Godric is going to be, who really knows? You don't really know until we get more seasons, we get more development. And at the end of the day, the fact that the Chiefs went out and wanted to trade up for Suamataia does tell you a little bit about how they feel about their tackle position. So it's always nice to have depth. It's nice to have talent and upside. And Andy Heck is a fantastic offensive line coach. But right now, those differences are far apart from Godric and Suamataia and Morris, because the technique perspective and that side of playing tackle is one of the differences, and why a guy like Morris was still able to come in and play pretty damn good football for the Chiefs in his rookie season, as a third round pick. So that's not something that Godric would be able to do even now. So they're just kind of hoping he develops into one of these players that will be a backup, a good depth piece, possibly a swing tackle at most. And you're hoping to be able to get a little bit more out of a player like that. It's mostly just a lot of upside and development prospects. You got another one here, Steve. Thank you. Is running back Bailey a slower version of Kareem Hunt? I actually think he's faster than Kareem Hunt. Kareem ran a 4.62, if I'm not mistaken, and his burst was the real reason that he came onto the scene and was able to break big runs early on in his career. A lot of space created in those early Chiefs teams as well, especially the year he ran with Patrick Mahomes until his release from the Chiefs. There was a lot more space created with the weapons there. So, and defenses were playing a lot more single high at that point. So it was a little bit different of a offense and defensive structure. So I would say he's a bit faster, but he is not the pass catcher downfield that Kareem Hunt was. In Kareem Hunt, before he started to get a lot of wear in his tires and tread, all those stuff, and kind of start injuries piling up for him. He was a guy that could really run downfield, track the ball over his shoulder, and be a safety net down the field. And that's not something I'd see Bailey being able to do. But he was also much better in pass protection than I think Bailey is. So he's a bigger physical guy as well. So I think he's a bit smaller and a bit faster, but he's got good, at least from what I've seen out of TCU, some good foot speed, good foot quickness, the ability to put his foot in the dirt and then get out, kind of make a guy miss and keep going. So there are some similarities there in terms of the running style, but I do think that he's faster and maybe not as a physical player as Kareem Hunt was. I appreciate it, Steve. All right, you guys. Again, if you guys want to ask questions, make sure to put those question marks in front, well, so I can pick them out of the questions or the chat here a little bit easier. And yes, Jeremy, it's fantastic, and I love being able to support local businesses. And yes, PXG is a national brand, but they have a location right there in Overland Park, and it really is great to go down there and experience what they do. So, anything you guys can do to go down and get. If you're a golfer, even if you're not, if you want to get into it like I did, like Ryan did, it's a really good place to start. Patrick, thank you for your question. Good evening, Rogue family. That's right. Love seeing Rogue family in here. Ryan / Dan, that would be me. I'm here. Ryan's not here, so just don't ask him questions. Did you notice that only 4 games for the Chiefs are on turf this year? Players have to be pumped about that. I did not know that there were only 4 games on turf. That's absolutely going to make a big impact on how they feel, at least about playing in these grass. We know Travis Kelce, even him and his brother are very outspoken about the way that they just prefer to play on grass. And I understand it. It's a lot easier. It's a lot less wear on you. And honestly, the game that Travis Kelce got hurt was in Minnesota on a turf field. Non-contact injury. Those are far less from what again, maybe you guys know more about this, but it feels like less. It feels like more non-contact injuries happen on turf fields than they do grass. Maybe I'm wrong, but again, they do feel that the players think that it's something that really benefits them. So they're definitely going to be happy about that. Thanks for pointing that out, Patrick, so that something we can all, take into and agree with. So I'd love to see that. What's going on, Brenda? Nice to see you in here tonight. Another one of our members, Rogue family here, showing out. You love to see it. Chris, thank you for your question. Will the Chiefs select the Cops theme song or Who Let the Dogs Out as their song for the 2024 season? Oh, man. Coming in with the fire, Chris, huh? Just coming in hot. It's a tough scene to be this offseason right now for the Chiefs. And all I can say is sometimes success goes to these young players' heads, and it does paint a bad picture, right? Hey, sweetie. You guys all say hello to my daughter? You want to say hello? There she is.
Hi.
Come here. She's just going to come say goodnight to me, right? Yeah? Thank you. Mwah. I love you, sweetie. Okay, sweetie. Sleep well, okay?
Okay.
Really? Yeah? Yeah?
Daddy.
Good night, sweetheart. All right. So, man, my daughter's adorable. Oh, I love her. And I love that you guys always shower her with praise when she comes on. It makes her feel good, makes me feel good.
Night.
And she says good night. Good job, sweetie. She's definitely got a future here. The real co-host is absolutely right, Jeremy. She is the real co-host. So I don't. There's got to be. Actually, this is a good question for all of you in here right now. Let's open it up to the commenters and the people watching. What do you think should be the theme song for the Chiefs 2024 season? I don't want to pick it, so I want you guys in the chat, in the comments after the video, whatever it is, at me on Twitter so we can have fun talking about it for the next Q&A next Monday. What would you guys label as the Chiefs 2024 season song? I want to put them in the comments here. Let's see what we got. Appreciate it, Chris, because this could be a lot of fun for different people, and I want to see what everyone's got to say. Oh, Austin, welcome in. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your question. What do you think are the odds that Zamet is RB3 due to his versatility and them only keeping 3? So I think that they're going to keep 4 running backs. They typically, I mean, at least want to keep 4 running backs. In their history, they have kept 3 and a fullback. Obviously, with the extinction of the running back in the Andy Reid system, RIP Ryan. Sorry about that. Not trying to, have you take some strays while we're out here, but I think that it would be nice if he was the RB4. If he does make it, again, it's because he's got versatility. I think that they were also trying him in OTA periods on kickoffs in terms of kicking the football, which would add a little bit of something, but they're very impressed with his versatility and his skill set right now. And he's going to have to show out in training camp to be more than just a return man. You have to be able to do more on special teams, be able to take hits and wrap up, if you're going to play kick coverage, things like that. So there's a lot of different things that I think the Chiefs are going to look at with Zamet, but I think it's pretty slim that he'd be the RB3. If they keep 4, I would say that would be kind of my sweet spot for him, somewhere around maybe 40% chance odds that he would be able to make the roster as the RB4 if they keep that many. Because again, I don't think they're going to keep 7 wide receivers like they did last year. I think they learned their lesson from that situation. And although it could be, fun, I'm much more of the opinion that they're going to keep 4 running backs and not 7 receivers. So I still think he's got a good shot, but I haven't seen him play. I haven't seen him in pads, and those are the big factors here that we're looking for specifically that will translate to the preseason. If he can perform in training camp and preseason, he's going to have a good shot. That's what it comes down to, and that's really what matters. Chris, again, another question here. Thank you very much. Will the agreement to pay players in college change who comes out in the draft? Will it make coaching rookies harder in the NFL? So I think this last year was more of a one-off because of the COVID year. Yes, they can still get paid, and maybe that changes some here and there. At the end of the day, most of these players want to go to the NFL where that money is guaranteed. And it will, especially with how contracts are being fully guaranteed for rookies and those high draft picks. And we're seeing a lot of guys get paid a lot of money early on in their careers. That's what they're still going to want to do. You still can make more money in the NFL than you can in college. And there's a lot more competition in college, to be very honest, with a lot more 5 stars, 4 stars, and guys who end up balling out. That's just kind of how it works. So I don't know we're going to see a ton of players choose to stay in school to earn that money instead of coming out. But we're going to find out over these next few years how it's going to be impacted, because right now we don't really know a ton about it. This last year was that COVID year. Now those COVID years are done. They're over with. So we'll have some more opportunities to really nail in and see what the effect is going to be, that NIL is going to have on everything here. So that's kind of what I think about that. I'm very interested to see it for sure, though, Chris. I appreciate you bringing that question here. It makes me think a little bit about it. Steve, how you doing? Nice to see you. How much will we miss Willie Gay? Do we have a replacement? So it really depends, honestly. And Willie Gay is somebody mentally and emotionally and vocally that will be difficult to replace. That's something that they're going to miss on the field. But I don't know that they have a huge answer right now, because when we look at the starters, we know it's going to be Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquil, and Leo Chenal. Those are the three guys that are going to be your 1, 2, and 3 linebackers. But is that the is Leo Chenal, Drew Tranquil an answer for Willie Gay? No, they're not. But they do have a very intriguing player, a guy who played in week 18 last year against the Los Angeles Chargers, who I think could end up being that kind of player. And it's Cam Jones. Played at Indiana at college. He was a UDFA for the Chiefs, and he showed out last year in that Chargers game. And that's who I think is going to have the opportunity to be that player. He did get injured in that game as well, so the Chiefs didn't see him in the postseason. And we're going to have to keep an eye on him for training camp to see how his injury has progressed, how he's looking. But he is the player that I'm going to have my eye on as that player that can, because I want Leo Chenal to do what Leo Chenal did last year. Just keep getting a little bit better each year, each day. He's a Sam. He's a good guy you can drop down, as we've seen those pseudo 3-3 linebacker sets where they have 3 linebackers on the field, but it's really nickel, and he drops down as a pass rusher. So this opportunity in training camp for Cam Jones, if he is 100% fully healthy, is going to be to take over as what Willie Gay was, because he is a guy that flies all over the field, and that's not something that they really have right now in that linebacker room. So he's who I'm watching for pretty hard in this linebacker core. Good question, Stephen. Michael, thank you for your question. Could Worthy lead all rookies in yards and touchdowns? It's possible. It definitely is possible. I think with Rashee Rice out, again, we're going to just assume to this point that Rashee Rice is going to be out for the foreseeable future. We don't really know how many games, if any, he's going to get suspended for. So that's just something I'm trying to foreshadow. If he does, Xavier Worthy is going to be the guy that I think has the best opportunity, especially in this rookie class. I do think Marvin Harrison Jr. is the obvious yards and leaders, because he's the automatic number one on that team. I know that they're going to run the football, but I think Kyler Murray is still going to want to throw it down the field to Marvin Harrison, who can win a lot. So I think Worthy can, but as we know, in Kansas City, Travis Kelce is the number one receiver. Marquise Hollywood Brown will cut into that, and then when Rashee Rice comes back, he will as well. So there's always a possibility that he can, because I do think he's going to get funneled targets and be a deep threat in the NFL for the Chiefs. But I think that the way they distribute the football, it's much more realistic that he comes in like under 1,000 yards. And I think that there are a number of receivers that can get higher than 1,000 yards this season and touchdowns. I think Marvin Harrison probably leads them in both, but we'll find out. I love the optimism, and I truly think that he's got a chance to, and that's all that really matters, right? He's going to have that chance. Minotaur, member for 33 months. Thank you for being here, man. Appreciate your support and constantly giving away memberships to people as you always do. That's always greatly appreciated. And this coming in here and talking and being with us every Monday and live stream is always great. So thank you very much. Is it wrong for me to be most excited to see his Ammon play this year? No, I think that that's perfectly reasonable, especially because we have like real legitimate rugby highlights, and that's not a game for the faint of heart, right? It's not a game for the faint of heart. He's so talented. He's big. He's fast. He's physical. I love that. And I think that that's something that when you want to put pads on and see what he does, that he's going to be something that is a polarizing player for the Chiefs in training camp. So yeah, I don't think you're crazy at all. It's definitely not wrong to want that and to be very excited about that. We all kind of are. And I think that speaks for itself, and how the Chiefs envision being able to use him is something that we see as like a Dexter McCluster, these hybrid type players, but he's bigger and he's more physical and he can take more beatings. So that's something that's really exciting to a lot of people. It's exciting to me too. Oh, talk about exciting. My film review on Wednesday is going to be on the assumed battle, I should say, between Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams for that CB2 spot. We're going to talk about, their skills, their talents, who's got the upper edge, stats from last year. It's going to be a jam-packed film room for Wednesday. So make sure you guys are following along for when that drops. So let's visit some of these excuse me, the song choices that you guys picked to get to be the Chiefs theme songs for 2024. Taylor Swift, duh, Anthony hits it right on the head. Lots of different songs in there you guys could choose from to pick. Yes, Slim Shady did drop a new song. I did not listen to it yet, but I'm going to at some point. I can't help myself. David, let me see what you got here. New song has bars like "Guess who's back" as the Chiefs head to the Super Bowl, but you might get canceled. That's true. You never really know. You never really know with the old Slim Shady there. It's a lot of fun though. Scott, thank you for your question. How many roster spots for 2024 are yet to have players acquired for them? So I'm assuming you're talking starters. If there's any spots, if there's any holes on the roster, right now I think that maybe the biggest hole is at running back because it's still just Isaiah Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So those are two spots that we know are set in stone for this season. But I think that they could definitely add some players at running back. But I don't think that they desperately need to bring anybody in terms of to have camp battles. I would like to see them bring Donovan Smith back to have legitimate solid backups at tackle for both spots. That's something there. So I don't think so. I think they're pretty set in terms of roster spots. Sean, thank you for your question. Do you think that playing the Bengals and the Ravens in the first and second games of the season makes it more or less likely that the Chiefs beat them? I don't really know that where it is in the season makes it more or less likely. I know that Patrick Mahomes would prefer playing them at the end of the season because he wants to play those teams like it's playoffs. He likes that atmosphere, and he definitely wants to play the best teams at the end of the year to really get them ready for their Super Bowl run, which is an every year thing now. So for me, I don't know if it makes it more likely or less likely. I think that they always want to play the best teams, and I think it's going to set up some good football for the Chiefs early in the season. I think I will say it probably makes it less likely that they beat both of them, but at the end of the day, I don't think it matters too much because I would much prefer the Chiefs maybe lose one of these football games and hit their stride in December and January when it really matters and not get it early, with these week 1 and week 2 games. Steven, thank you again for another question here. Should we look for a backup for Rice if he's suspended for a while? How much were the Chiefs depending on that underneath receiver now that they have deep threats? Hi, Avery. Oh, I'm sure she'll, Avery's got lots of fans in here tonight. She's definitely going to love that. I'm going to make sure that she knows tomorrow after, her bedtime. When I look at what Rice did last year, you're not going to like the answer, but Sky Moore fits that mold. That's what he should have been doing his entire last 2 years. They also can use that for Kadarius Toney. So they have two players that can already do, maybe not to the extent that Rashee Rice can do because he's bigger. I wouldn't say he's faster than either of them. I think his long speed is about the same. Maybe he's a bit burstier than Sky for sure. Maybe not so much as Kadarius, but he finishes those plays a bit more physically. And we see him really get upfield faster than both in terms of what he's able to do because he doesn't have that short area quickness to make guys miss. So from that perspective, they won't have that immediate get up to speed and get upfield player, but both Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney can give you some of that element in their game early on without Rashee Rice. So I don't think you really need to bring somebody else in that fits that mold because I do think they're going to be able to use other players in that role that they already have on the roster. Appreciate it, Steven. So Minotaur suggests Fortunate Son. Okay. I'm feeling it. Right, we got some more in here. You want Bad Boys, Deborah? Okay. What? We're just talking about the Chiefs theme songs for 2024. That's all. Context is key, guys. Context is key. Walking into any conversation. Don't stop believing. Another good one. Well, Patrick Mahomes, we all kind of at some point last season we all stopped believing for just a little bit, right? Just a little bit. Thought it wasn't going to happen. That Christmas Day game, we all maybe stopped just a little bit with the Raiders beating them on Christmas Day. But you're right. You're right, Joe. Never stop believing. Patrick Mahomes always finds a way. Always finds a way. Green Beans, thank you for being here and thank you for the super chat. How do you think this tight end scheme changes? I don't think it's going to change. I don't think they're going to do anything differently with tight ends. But what I do think is you can use any one of the four tight ends that they probably keep on the roster. Maybe it's three, I don't know, but I would think four. You can use them in a lot of different roles out wide in the slot, aligned to the offensive line as a sniffer tight end off the line. You can use them as an H back. They can be used as fullbacks as well, which Andy Reid showed last year with Noah Gray and Travis Kelce both running routes from the backfield. So I don't think that we're going to see like the tight end scheme change. And what's going to be tough for the Chiefs is when Travis Kelce does eventually, retire, it's how are they going to adapt to that? I don't think that as much as I like what Jared Wiley is going to bring to this team as what Jody Fortson did in my mind, he's not going to turn into what Travis Kelce did. And it's really important to maybe not try to always replace Travis Kelce. Maybe break off pieces, get two tight ends that can help you bring both spots. Also keep drafting wide receivers. And because there's going to be a day after Travis Kelce, which I don't want to think about, but it's coming. So find ways to get the most out of the players that you have. Keep drafting upside-based players. And again, at wide receiver, continue to draft in the first and second rounds. They have to keep doing that. There's going to be tons of talent on those first and second days for the foreseeable future. So it's all about developing those guys around everybody else and getting the most that they can out of them. Appreciate the super chat very, very much. Thank you. Brenda, We Are the Champions song for the year. That's another good one, obviously, because they're going for the three-peat, and they absolutely are going to have the opportunity to do that, and I can't wait to watch it this year. It's going to be so much fun. Steven, thank you for another one here. Did the Chiefs follow the 2004 Pistons blueprint for winning a championship, i.e., share the ball, no individual accolades, relied on great defense? In 2023, I think that you can definitely think you can associate those two with the same. They had that great defensive player, the shot blocker, the rim protector, Ben Wallace. That's kind of like Chris Jones, who was all over the field. And I was going back through the Baltimore Ravens game and even the game against the Bills, where he didn't get those sacks, but he was impacting games, impacting snaps so often, so critically. You have someone that can do that, like a Ben Wallace, like a Rasheed Wallace, where you guys can have someone to get in their head a little bit. I think it's really, really important. Obviously, Chauncey Billups being quote unquote in the same essence of Patrick Mahomes of that team. The 2004 Pistons were my favorite iteration of the Pistons. Obviously, I wasn't born in Detroit, but I was raised in Michigan most of my young life, and the Pistons are my basketball team. So you got to watch a lot of that. And then you have every now and then you got a Tayshaun Prince and a Rip Hamilton to come in. And then they had like the sixth man, McDyess coming off the bench. Like they had a bunch of different role players. They could really get it done in a number of different ways. So I like that comparison, Steve. That makes a lot of sense. All right. What's going on, Hunter? Nice to see you in here. What? Gary, our moderator, you guys give him a round of applause, please, as Ryan always does, helping us get through every single Q&A, every single live, as you always do. Appreciate you being here. Dan, do you see Remigio? Do you think Remigio will make the team this year? Man, it's tough. It's going to be tough for him to make the roster unless they cut Sky Moore or Kadarius Toney. Those are the only ways that he gets on. I do think that they have their roster pretty much set. It also matters what happens with Rashee Rice. And again, I believe that he's not going to count towards the roster when he's suspended. So that could also be a pretty quick way for him to make the team. But also, if they don't keep 4 running backs, if they don't keep 4 tight ends, he has an opportunity because of the punt return ability. He is already showcasing everything that he was pre-injury last year in training camp, having the speed, the quickness, the hands, the ability to go get the football in traffic for a smaller player. All those things are really, really important for a wide receiver and someone who's consistently now for 2 years in a row who has impressed the coaching staff. That's an important factor to consider as well. So when you go out there, you don't really have much pressure and you just try to play your best and showcase what you have. I think that just ultimately you want to have good football players around. And I think that he's one of the players that is going to be vying for the roster. So he's definitely got a chance. I'm just not sure that he's going to make it. And it's not going to be his fault either. It's just going to be the number of bodies that they can keep. And just trying to figure out the best relationship there between that. So I'm hoping for him. I'm praying for him. And I hope he can actually do something in training camp and stay healthy to be able to make this roster because he'd be a lot of fun to do that. Pono, good to see you. Hi, Dan. Pono, do you mean Remigio make the roster? Is that what you mean? Or you I'm not really. I don't think it's religion. So send Sky to the practice squad. I'm going to assume that that's supposed to be Remigio. Sky Moore would not make it to the practice squad. I think that another team would pick him up off of waivers just because I think there's more to get out of him. And we've talked about this at length with Sky Moore. I don't believe the Chiefs have used him properly since he was drafted. I believe that they tried to force him to play outside far too much. And the role that he should have been playing is what Rashee Rice did last year. And then they drafted Rashee Rice and put him in that role. And Sky Moore was essentially put on the outside to perish and not be useful, which I do think we're going to see a return to Sky Moore to the slot this year, especially with the speed they have on the outside. And they still have Justin Watson, who's going to play that X position for them this year, at least in my mind. So now I do think we're going to get more out of Sky Moore this year, no pun intended, and be able to see that there was still value in drafting him, even though it was probably too high. Again, you can't go back and change things the way they are. You can only use them for what they have. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire is now signed. Clyde signed a second contract with Chiefs, and he looked really good at spots last year when he was fully healthy. So I've still got hope for Sky. I know a lot of people have really thrown him to the wolves and said that he's done. I think that there's more to get out of him this year specifically. Hopefully he's able to prove some of these guys wrong. Scuba Steve, thank you for being here. Thank you for your question. Can we go undefeated? Is it possible in this generation of football? I never think about going undefeated personally. I don't think the Chiefs do either. I also believe that if they were undefeated going into the last week of the season, that Andy Reid would rest every single starter because the record doesn't matter. That record doesn't matter. What does matter to this team is being the first team in the history of the NFL to win 3 Super Bowls in a row. It doesn't matter the wins loss on that team. What matters is being the first team to do it. So I don't believe they care. I don't think it's in their mind. I don't think that their aspirations are to win every single game that they play in terms of, what is it, 21 and 23 and 0. I don't know. They have played 17 games now. So something like that. And I do believe that it's still possible to go undefeated, even in this generation of football, specifically because offense is so, important and defense is even though last year the defense really took it to the offenses and scoring was down for the first time in I believe almost a decade. So that tells you they were kind of sick and tired of seeing offenses be on the main stage and they really took over. But I think it's always possible, but I don't know. It's not something that I ever think teams really strive for, but I guess we won't know until a team enters week 18 being 17 or being 16 and 0. Maybe we'll find out at some point. I tend to think not, though. All right, Scuba. So who are we going to overhype this year? I love overhyping people. I think we all do. We all find attachments. We all get players that we really, really love and that we want to see do well, and we want to hype them up. So this is another question that we're going to open up to the commenters and open up to all of you watching. In the comments, on the video in the live comments now, who is a player that you are going to be hyping all training camp, all preseason, and then I want to hear who you're going to hype in the regular season when they make the roster. Let's just talk about these players because that's the fun part, right? Now during the dead period, we all want to see, Nico Remigio. We want to see Zemet be a guy that does all of this, right? We want to see these guys do it. Even the rookies, we want to tout CJ Hansen coming out of Holy Cross, Hunter Norzad out of Penn State. There's a ton of different players. My guy that I'm going to keep touting is Fabian Lovett. I think that he can make this roster. I think he can be impactful. And that's definitely something that I want to see happen for him, especially as a UDFA. So that'd be a lot of fun. That's comments. I want to hear what you guys think. All right. Hunter, appreciate you being here. Thank you for that. Thank you for your question. Hey, Dan, any idea why RGR has disappeared from Spotify? Last thing on RGR Spotify was May 8th for me. Unfortunately, that is a Ryan question, but we got somebody in here. Carson Steele. Okay. All right, Ryan. Maybe you can help our buddies out here with the Spotify question because I don't know the answer to this question. That is definitely a Ryan question. I don't know. I'm sorry, Hunter. I'll get with Ryan and we'll see what's going on that end so we can continue to get these up there for all you that listen to them there. I definitely don't want that to disappear at all. All right. We got some FAU love in here. Love to see that. Yep. Obviously, Minotaur, we already talked about. Zamet, definitely. Carson Steele, obviously. We got a couple of Steele fans in here. I actually like Bailey better than Steele. I do. I think that Bailey makes the roster. I don't know. We'll find out. But I definitely think that as a third down complement, if they don't bring Jarek McKinnon back, I think Steele makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to be watching them too, that running back, these young running backs on the roster. I want to see what they're going to end up doing. Remigio from Brendan here, and Ryan's going to check on the Spotify. Hunter, look at that. See, we can all do it. We can accomplish these things, even though I'm lucky that Ryan's watching this right now live. And you're absolutely right, Night Hunter. I will pass the buck because Ryan does far more than I do, and this is another one of those reasons that proves that he does. He knows far more about what goes on here than I do. Deborah, I think Kingsley is sneaky good. Yeah, and again, we've kind of hinted on. I think that he's going to win the left tackle job, and I think that he can start early for them and be a key cog in this offensive line. And really, when I think about the offensive line, I look at the left tackle spot, and they've had inconsistency in pass protection for the last 3 or 4 years. And while Kingsley's still going to grow as a run blocker, he comes from BYU, which does a lot more zone typically. They added more power concepts into their offense. They were pulling Kingsley a lot last year. They pulled 2 guys at a time. They were adding more power and gap concepts. So he comes in with a better understanding of how the Chiefs have been running their gap and zone concepts. And a lot of run plays, it's more about learning the terminology, not how the play is blocked. So that's going to help him as well. We're seeing, you guys, just to kind of go peek behind the curtain, why we're seeing a lot more power and gap concepts from run teams. If you look at the Sean McVays of the world, who ran predominantly outside zone in these zone schemes. When defenses changed to those too high, they took one of those defenders out of the box, right? And what does that do? It opens up lanes and it creates more space underneath those safeties. So how can you take advantage of that space? Well, you run a lot of pullers. You run a lot more guys to get that naturally create space in the second levels for your running backs. So that's why we're seeing even the Chiefs adopt more power and gap scheme, because with those too high safeties, they can afford to pull someone, take over, block down from a center, pull a guard, and get more space for the running backs into that first and second level to get more breakaway runs. So naturally, if you're running zone against too high, those safeties can see it and they can come down a little bit quicker and reestablish that maybe 8 or 9 players in the box. So it makes it more difficult to be successful with those outside zone runs against too high safeties than it would be naturally for them against one underneath. You know what I mean? So it's definitely something we're seeing a lot closer because with outside zone, if you've got 8 guys in the box, you kind of separate it and then you run the opposite direction of the strength of the defense. So, just pulling the top off there a little bit, letting you guys get some more questions in here while we go. Steven, thank you again for being here and asking some really good questions tonight. Are you encouraged or concerned that Andy had to scheme up short yardage plays in the Super Bowl and fourth down situations? Um, Not necessarily. The Chiefs have struggled, on short yardage for a long time, and I think it was more execution than anything. I don't think it's necessarily all Andy Reid's fault. I think that execution a lot last year, the year before, has been their biggest problem. It's not, and for me, it's not that it goes to the fullback. I know a lot of people think that just put a fullback in there, run downhill, and you can solve your problems. Even when they had, a fullback, Anthony Sherman, Mike Burton, they were having trouble with those short areas. And I don't like some of the jet sweep stuff on short yardage. I don't like that myself, but I think that the Chiefs offensive line, when they are tasked with 1 yard to go, the defense knows it knows it's coming. They don't have the bodies at every single position to just move guys off the ball. Like, that's not their strength. So they do have to get a little bit creative. And I would love it if we saw a better execution of those short yardage plays. I think at the end of the day, they just need to be able to, again, when the defense knows a run is coming, they have to be able to just run the football. And that's something that they haven't been able to do. So I guess it's a roundabout way of saying that execution is more important than the fact that they're drawing up these plays. The reason that they have them is just in case, But I understand the concern for sure, because it's never fun to watch a team go out there, bang their head against a wall for third and shorts nearly every single week, and in the Super Bowl have to kind of finagle things around. And that was the 4th and 1 was really more Patrick seeing that was going to be available and just taking advantage of Nick Bosa consistently chopping down the edge there. So I think that was just smart on his part to be able to do that. Maybe this year will be different. We'll find out. Thank you very much, Stephen. Gary, thank you for another question. Dan, will Rice get 4 to 8 game suspension this year? I think it's probably going to be about 4 to 6. I think that's my uneducated opinion. We're going to find out more as more information comes out. We haven't seen a ton about anything recently. The fact that the misunderstanding with the photographer has now been dismissed obviously helps a little bit, but public perception is one thing, actual facts is another. So with more information whenever it comes out, the fact that he's not on the commissioner's exempt list right now is, I think, a good thing. That's, again, he can participate in everything still and be with the team for training camp. So I think that part is at least a good thing for maybe a lesser suspension. Don't quote me on that. I'm not the most knowledgeable thing when it comes to those things. Again, Stephen, woof, lots and lots of questions tonight from you. Is George ready to become a superstar on defense? What does he have to do to gain that status? No, I don't believe he can become a superstar, and it's not his fault. To be a superstar at defensive end, Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, TJ Watt, you have to have the one thing that, as much as as George trains, he can't have. He doesn't have bend. He cannot bend the edge. And again, it's not his fault. He just doesn't have that in his tool bag. But what he can be is, this year, he can be a legitimate number one next to Chris Jones. It's all about the hand usage. Now, if you were to take Chris Jones out of this defense, which we don't have to worry about now that he's signed that big contract, and you have George Karlaftis as your number one pass rusher, that's not a great situation to be in. Doesn't win quickly, but he's a hard worker. He doesn't give up on the play, and he routinely effort wins. It's just a little bit late. So this year, when it comes to getting a little bit better in that department. It's the quickness with the hands. You have to be a tad quicker with the hands. You also have to get off the ball a little bit quicker for George Karlaftis. Maybe it's trimming down just a smidge because he's predominantly a power player and he bull rushes, he uses speed to power, and he's getting better with his hands. So what I like about the fact that George Karlaftis is on this team is that they don't have to worry about him being the one. He's facilitating Chris Jones. Chris Jones gets the quick pressure, and then you get the George Karlaftis win, and that's how he's been able to kind of clean up. It works for him. He's just not an elite pass rusher, and that's okay. It's okay to be what he is because he's a very productive player. So I don't think he's going to be a superstar, but productive and actually being able to win later and then make do off of those sacks that maybe Chris Jones doesn't get makes him valuable for this defense. I hope that answers a lot more than I thought it would. What? Did that not show up? Okay, there it did. Oh, Pono, thank you for another question here. Bailey reminds me of Darwin Thompson. He's bigger than Darwin at least, so you have that. If Darwin Thompson was bigger, he probably would have stuck a little bit better. So I'm sorry he reminds you of that, but I don't mind it too much. It doesn't hurt me that bad. Another one for me, Pono. Can Hicks move up to linebacker and Leo to edge if he bulks up? I personally think Leo can play edge right now, and he showed as much last year when the times that he played it. I do think Hicks can play linebacker, and he's more versatile. He doesn't have to just be like a solo linebacker. He can play safety, he can play slot, he can play as a linebacker, and they're probably going to use him all in those different games as well. So you have two players that can do both, but also can play their actual positions too, which is nice to have. And that's why they're on the team because they can be versatile and give you everything that Spags is looking for. And so while yes, Hicks can move up to linebacker, I think he could make the switch if that's what they wanted him to. But when you have these guys that have multiple positions that they can play, it just creates so much havoc for offenses, and that's what Spags is great at. So I'm looking forward to see what he does. FLDB's in the house, everybody. Woo, we got another one of our moderators and members here tonight. New tattoo, Dan. What'd you get? So you guys know that I have my Death Star and Luke's lightsaber from Return of the Jedi here on my shoulder, and now I have an X-wing right below that. It looks like it's flying away from the Death Star on my arm. So it's awesome. The detail is great, and I'm very excited to get all the Sanoderm off so that everyone can see it in all its detailed glory. All right, Adam, thank you for the super chat. Don't apologize for being here late. Everyone's got stuff they got to do. We all got lives, right? We all got stuff that takes up some of our time. So just being here at all and supporting the channel is more than enough. So thank you for that. How much of an impact can FAU have in year two? This is where the conversation from George Karlaftis to me shifts, right? I'm not going to say George Karlaftis is a one-trick pony because he definitely got better. He's more of a two-trick guy now. He's got a couple different ways that he can win. But when I watch FAU play, when I watched him coming out of Kansas State, I watched him last year, he has more from a pass rush perspective. He's got a little bit more bend. He's got much more cornering ability, and he's quicker. He's faster. Those are things to be able to win quickly in the NFL, to use your speed, use your quickness, quick footwork, quick hands, all those things. That's how you can develop an elite pass rush profile. You have to be able to stress the edge, right? Stress the arc. I always say stress the arc. You want to get to your spot before the tackle does. But even if you don't, you want to make that tackle think you're going to beat him around the corner, opening up that B gap, that big B gap. You want to give yourself a really good counter position, right? So that's what FAU can do. It's what he can accomplish using his speed and then speed to power, being more of a pass rush guy. What he can do in the NFL in the year two is get better with his hands and get better with his pass rush plan. So when you're watching him last year, sometimes he gets caught up, right? He gets caught up in his pass rush plan. He doesn't really know what to do next. That happens to a lot of players. And we see these young defensive ends that are all upside, even the ones from, the Aiden Hutchinson and I'm just blanking on his name, Trayvon Walker out of Georgia. They came in and Aiden Hutchinson had a good rookie season. He got better in year two. Trayvon Walker got better in year two. So they have to consistently develop. I think with Cullen there as the defensive line coach and Spags also having a ton of experience there, he's in the best position to take that next step. It's just going to be about the work he does off the field. I'm going to be more as open and honest with you as I can about what I know about how things go in the NFL. You have to have the work ethic. If you don't have the work ethic on your own, the team is not going to develop you. They do not develop players in the same sense that I used to think. They develop players in their system. They teach players how to play in their system. They do not teach them the fundamentals in terms of getting better. Like they do not teach them that part of the game. You have to work on your own. That's why we're seeing Tamba work with George Karlaftis and work with FAU, because they need to get better on their own so the team can get them better on the defense. So he can have a good impact. We just got to see what he does in training camp so that I can better gauge how he got better from year one. Appreciate the super chat, Adam, and thank you for being here tonight. What are your thoughts on the tight ends and their usage this season? The Chiefs love their 13 personnel. They're the most efficient offense in 13 personnel in the NFL and will be going forward. Andy Reid loves to. Now, Travis Kelce changes the dynamic of 13 personnel, right? He brings a lot more attention. They have more versatility now at tight end. Jody Fortson was one of the reasons that they were so impactful. Last year, even so, with Noah Gray and Blake Bell and Travis Kelce, they were still impactful. Jared Wiley is going to help them out. I think him, Noah Gray, and Travis Kelce are your best 13 personnel, and they can really attack the field and attack downfield as well. So I like the room. I like what they can do. I still believe Travis Kelce's got a 1,000-yard season in him this year. I think he does next year too, because injuries change how you play, right? He got healthier during the postseason, and he definitely was able to impact the offense, and he made fantastic plays, and he looked better. So I'm not worried about that from a slowing down perspective. So I'm excited about the tight end usage. I think that we're going to see some interesting tweaks from Noah Gray in the backfield, Travis Kelce in the backfield, maybe all three of them in the backfield. That'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it? We just line the running back and wide receiver out wide and have three tight ends in the backfield, like a full house, and just run them off in different formations. That'd be crazy. Be kind of fun. So I don't know. We'll kind of see. It's going to be fun. I can tell you that much. Midnight, thank you for your question. What are your expectations? All right, so yeah, we've done a lot of the FAU talk, but I do think he has the skill set to be a 7 to 10 sack guy this year. Again, it's all about the work he puts in, Midnight, and that's the thing. When training camp, we'll see how much better he got from last year, and at the end of the day, that's all we really can do. OTAs only teach you so much. Training camp and preseason teach you everything you need to know about how a player has developed on their own and the work that they put in. So I'm excited because I go back to my thoughts on him coming out is that he won't know he wasn't a first round pick, but he had the best pass rush tool bag among the best pass rush tool bag in that draft class. And he has the second best pass rush tool bag on the team, in my personal opinion. And we're going to end here tonight with Minotaur once again. 5 gifted subs. Thank you for spreading the RGR Rogue Nation around to the rest of the people in here. You guys, this guy's always in here supporting us, and I can't thank him enough. I know Ryan can't thank him enough either, who is loving it, being in here and supporting me while I'm out here by myself as he's, in Toronto, looks like. So now it's not an undisclosed location. He is disclosing his location to all of you. That's kind of dangerous to do, Ryan, but I give you props for that. All right. As Adam says, before you guys head on out of here, make sure to hit that like button for us. It helps us get us out to more of Chiefs Kingdom so we can continue to grow Rogue Nation and get our, content, film rooms, the lives, everything that we do out to everybody. So thank you very much for all of you being here tonight. And make sure to go visit our new sponsors, PXG, at the Overland Park location. Getting a fitting is cheap, it's a lot of fun, and you guys get 12 free balls for it. So you really can't go wrong. It's going to be a lot of fun, even if you're not an avid golfer. Ryan did it, and he had a great time too. So make sure you go do that. Thank you, Ryan. Look forward to you being back as always. But you guys are the ones we do this for. You guys are the ones that rock. And I look forward to you guys seeing the next film room on Wednesday. It's going to be Jalen Watson versus Josh Williams. Who's got the upper hand? Who's going to win that battle? And I can't wait to see it myself. So you guys have a fantastic rest of your evening. And we'll see you all probably on Wednesday. We got some more content coming. So enjoy it.